Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 16 of Run to the Hills. 16 episodes we've been twittering on and not been fired, John. This is incredible. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, it's been quite a busy week as normal, which I've really enjoyed. And I do a lot of orienteering with the schools that I'm in, and I'm really enjoying that. It's good fun, but it was quite wet this week, so some of the kids got quite wet, but they're lovely because we have to do everything outside at the moment. But I think it's good for them. I think it's good to learn to get wet.
I mean, you and I together, we don't take any prisoners with kids going outside in the wet and the cold, as long as they've got a good coat, do we?
Yeah. It's quite funny because I think my reputation in the schools I work in is that they know I'll do it in whatever weather. You know, I turn up and they just assume I'm going to take them outside. It's great. I like having that reputation.
I bet the teachers are like, take them, and the kids are like, no.
No, the kids
are quite keen, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're quite keen. They must be keen to get outside.
Yeah.
They don't care, do they? Once they're out, they don't care.
If you've got a choice being inside doing maths and English or outside doing activities, then there's no choice, is there?
No choice for me, whatever.
That's
Still,
right.
There's no choice if I get the choice. Yeah.
And how about your week?
I've had an up and down week, to be honest, John. We had the sad news this week. Well, the good news and bad news. We'll start with the good news, that we are allowed out from tomorrow. So our hour limit and our 1K radius is being lifted to a 3-hour limit and a 20K radius. We're still not allowed to go out with anybody. We have to be by ourselves, but we've got some more freedom, which is wonderful. And it's wonderful for the kids because they've obviously been very confined since October. So they're really excited about tomorrow. They can go outside and go down to the park or whatever, go and just see something different. But on the other hand, we were told that the resort is opening, but the lifts aren't opening. So there's no skiing for us till maybe the middle of January. We don't know the date. And that's a huge knock on for us as a family, but also all our mates here because they all run ski businesses. And it's not going to happen. And Christmas is their sort of big Christmas and New Year. So it's hard to take. And it's, I feel very sorry. So big love to all my mates. I know they listen to this that I run with, and they are now, it's a scary future for them of it's their livelihood. So I felt very strongly for everybody this week that has got businesses that are struggling. And yeah, I was going to do the Centurion Challenge this week. I was down to do the 100 miles, but our conditions for running here it's beautiful. I can't complain, but the tracks are like, we haven't had up high. We've had a bit of snow, but we've got like this permafrost. The ground we haven't gone above, freezing up here this week. So the ground is like this frozen, rock solid, icy disaster. And the road, we've got about an hour when the roads are dry and you can run on them. So I decided running 100 miles on that wasn't going to be a lot of fun because you can't really run in the dark. It's a bit dangerous. And we've got this curfew as well. So you can't. So I decided not to stress myself. It was a bit, but I had a chat with my mate Drew, and we decided I was going to do like the same amount of hours, but mix it up because it is a challenge that you can do your own way. So I'm doing about, I reckoned 100 miles around here would take me about 15 hours of training. That's what it took me in May. So I'm doing 15 hours of training, but some of it is on my bike. So I'm doing about 10 hours running, about 5 hours on my bike. Sorry, but I did manage to bring Zwift in there a little bit. So it's been a bit of an up and down week, and I haven't really wanted to engage. Last time I loved engaging with it all on social media, but I think because we are so in this confinement bubble here, I find it easier. I don't know if you feel like I find it easier almost just to stay in my bubble while we can't get out. I almost don't want to know about what everyone else is doing, and I can sort of cope with it that way and just do my own thing. So, but I've seen some amazing stories, which I know we're going to talk about in a bit. And you've been running fast. You've been doing some fast stuff.
Well, this is my fast is an exaggeration, but I think it's my third week of doing some more speed training. So this week I did the club session on Monday. Oh, we did it in horrendous weather. There was about 8 of us turned up, and it was one of those days where it was just really windy and rainy. And we do a 1 mile sort of circuit, or about a mile. And so some of it's right into the wind and some of it's behind you. But anyway, that was a good session. And then Wednesday I did the time buster. So I adapted a little bit. So I only had an hour basically. So I did a 15-minute warm up, and then I did 5 minutes, 4-4, 3-3, 2-2, 1-1 with just 1 minute interval.
Yeah, I saw that rest. That's cheeky.
Well, that's what you said. That's what it said
Was
on
it?
the thing.
God,
Yeah.
I remember taskmaster I am.
I know. And I found that quite hard actually, because just having a 1 minute interval, then your heart rate is still quite high, isn't it? Yeah. I know, that was good.
You're getting buck for your money there, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. And it was so each one I was progressively faster. So the 1 minute I was 6:47 pace.
Nice.
Yeah,
You've still got it.
Yeah, so I feel as though, honestly, I did a recovery easy run yesterday after work. And for the first time for a while, I just felt like a runner again. I wasn't laboring. I felt as though I was, I could have gone quicker. And that was the nice feeling. And
I always think that's a really good sign, is that when you start being able to handle the sessions, and then the next day you're tired and you wouldn't want to do another session, but you're not like destroyed, and you're thinking, I'm actually, this recovery run, I'm able to run, I'd feel okay. And then the next day you can do a bit more easy running, and then you're ready to go again. I think the fact you could do that session with 1 minute recovery and you're getting faster shows that your fitness is there.
Thank you. Yeah. I think recently I've been doing some runs where I've had to walk some of the times, just doing an easy 5-6 mile run, because I just felt so sluggish. Whereas I think that was the most encouraging thing this week, is that I feel as though I didn't even think about walking yesterday, and it was just a really comfortable run at a decent pace. So, yeah, I feel as though it's paying off a little bit. Yeah.
Is there any news of your race coming up?
Well, I've not had any more that it's cancelled. So
no. What's the rules? Because like from the 15th here, we are allowed out, basically. They've just said no more confinement. You can go for it over Christmas. I reckon we'll get locked down again in January then. But is it the same in England? What's the Christmas? It's Scotland, sorry.
Yeah, it's different in Scotland and England. The race is in England and I'm in Scotland. So, but I think England are coming out of their lockdown next week. And they've just announced the different tiers. But then it's going to be reviewed every 2 weeks. So between now and the race on the 19th of December, there might be 2 changes anyway. So I'm going to prepare for it as if it's on, and then we'll see. And if I can't go, obviously I can't go. But I'm hoping that I can still go. So I'm going to plan towards the race being on.
Lovely.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to race reports. Now, obviously, there's no races, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, and one is the one community that you're involved in, that you mentioned, and I listened to James's podcast the other day. It was really interesting. So there's about 1,500 people taking part. There are about 4,000 in the summer, but I think it's not surprising that there's less people this time. But I think it's been inspirational for lots of people.
Wow. And I've seen people pop up this time that I've seen sort of friends that didn't do it last time, but obviously saw it and thought this. And so they've been inspired. Different people have got different stories this time. And I actually think as well, people are finding it quite harder this time because it's dark and it's cold and the weather's different. And I've actually got a client out now. He's just started. He's doing 100 miles all in a oneer today. So he's out there now. Big shout out, Ben. I'll get him to listen to this while he's doing it.
Yeah.
But people are doing all sorts of different things. I know Sarah Marshall has been a big story. If you listen to the podcast or follow Centurion on Facebook, and she's been doing 5K this week. And she's an inspiration. I mean, if you feel a bit sort of down or anything this week, take a look at her story or listen to their podcast, because she's really incredible and humbles us, I think. Where I'm moaning about the fact I'm not going to be able to go skiing. Honestly, really, Edwina. And you had a good story about with a running club doing this crazy virtual thing.
Yeah, I got an email from Julie McFeet, and she said to me, she runs with Bridlington Roadrunners, and they've been doing various
Bridlington. Is that near Liverpool? Where's that? Where's Bridlington?
No, it's in the northeast.
Oh, North,
Yeah,
Bridlington.
wrong sides of the country. During the lockdown, they've been doing various challenges, and their latest one was a 2-week challenge, which involves 4 teams involving running individually or in twos to clock up distance and elevation. So each 100 foot of elevation and every 1 mile collects 1 point. And then they try to get as many points as they can. And she just wanted to highlight a couple of outstanding performances. There was a lady, April Marie Exley, who works in a hospital. After completing a long shift at the hospital, she's a nurse, she has hammered every hill she could find and is one of our double Everest achievers and possibly our female challenge winner. And then also a couple of guys, Tony Hughes and James Wilson, who also have ran the equivalent of a twice up Everest, which is incredible, isn't it? The amount of, because you think Everest is 29,000 feet, so double that's 58,000 feet in a 2-week period. I know,
knees.
and it's coming down, isn't it?
Oh, it's the down. We all know it's the down.
Yeah.
These people are amazing. I love that challenge. I think if anyone is involved in their running clubs or has a group of running mates, that's such a good idea to do the feet and the miles together, and anything in a team, anything in a competition. I can't see, I was saying to you before, wasn't I don't know how people get to do this, but actually I'd be all over that if it was a bit of a team competition. Kudos to them.
Yeah. So I just want to say well done to everyone who is doing their own challenges. I was a couple of people that we had on our podcast a few weeks ago, Giacomo and Sonny. They've done the 100 miles for the One Community, and Giacomo did it in a oneer, and he did just a loop. I think it was about a mile loop around his house, just went round and round and round, and he did it just under 20 hours. And then Sonny, I think he's done his over 7 days, but he's done it on the same loop every day.
Welcome to my world, Sonny. I've been on that
true.
loop since October.
Yeah. So well done to them and there's loads of great stories there about people doing their virtual challenges. And then the next one coming up in a couple of weeks that we featured a couple of weeks ago is the Lapland one. So that starts on the 10th of December. So we'll feature that one as well. So let's move on to our competition. Now, we thought for the competition, I think it was you, Eddie, that came up with this great idea. So can you just outline a little bit about what the competition's going to be over the next few weeks, please?
Well, we wanted to do something special for Christmas, didn't we, John? We're big Christmas fans at Run to the Hills. And we thought it's been a bit of a tough year. What could we do? What can we give to our little community that we're growing? So we decided that we were going to offer up a coaching package for a lucky winner. We want you as listeners to nominate somebody. So you can't nominate yourself. You get somebody to nominate you. Nominate somebody who deserves I'm saying 3 months, but it's sort of dependent on when the person's race is. 3 months worth of coaching from me for a race. We'd like them to have a race because we feel that we'd like them to have a goal, a story. It might be a challenge. It might not be a race. And we want you to nominate somebody who you think deserves this prize. It involves, I'll write the person a program. I'll have a little chat with them. I'll learn all about them, just as I would on a normal sort of coaching call. And then I will set them up a weekly training plan and we will go through that together. And then you, John, you will follow their story on YouTube. And we thought it would be great if we could get them on the podcast about once a month, and we could all sort of invest in their journey. And it would be a great way for us to get more involved in the community, but also to sort of learn how this process happens and maybe inspire other people to get involved if it's someone that's never run an ultra before as well, taking down some barriers as well, that anybody can do this. So we thought that would be a lovely Christmas present for somebody. So do you want to say how they can apply, John?
Yeah, I was thinking as well, Eddie, that as well as the monthly interview that I could do, which will go out on our YouTube channel, if it's a race that I could go to, I'd be quite happy to film them and to follow their actually record. 'Cause I think one of the nice things about doing something like this is the record it gives you. So if we give the winner a monthly interview, and we could put that together as a one-er as well at the end, and then plus I could video the actual
like on
run they do.
like on Strictly Dancing, when they go, "You're out, but here's your journey." It could be a montage.
I've got no idea what Strictly Come Dancing is.
John,
No,
stop it. You do. I've seen you. You know what? Look, whenever they get voted off reality shows, but they go, and here's your montage.
Yes,
and
we could do that.
Highlights.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah. So the way to enter, we've put a blog post on the Cheer Charge website. So there'll be a links to that. And then in there, there'll be an application form. And it's not onerous, but we just wanted you to the reasons why you want to nominate that person. You'll obviously have to ask them if they're willing to be nominated. And then we thought initially maybe it would be someone who's never done an ultra before, but we didn't want to limit it to that. No. So it might be someone who's done a few ultras, but they've got a big race coming up that they could really benefit with your expert coaching advice, Eddie, and the support. So I think it'd be really interesting and it'll be a great prize. It really will, to have your expertise and to have the support of Run to the Hills. I always love helping. I always love working with people that perhaps I wouldn't have crossed paths with before. And I always try, I mentioned it to Tim, and I was like, I always try, I feel, especially at the moment, if we can, we feel better. And I personally, I mean, it's a bit selfish as well. If I feel like you were saying about your orienteering and helping the kids, I feel if we can do little bits to help little pockets of people, we all feel, in this time at the moment that I mean, I will enjoy it as much as probably the person that gets to get some coaching as well. So so we are going to judge it, you, me, and Tim Taylor, who is our boss, the runner of Cheer, the owner of the Cheer Charge, and the winner will not only get coaching and exclusive access to your interviewing skills, John, but we're also going to get some Cheer Charge goodies, some bars, a bandana. So we are the closing of the competition is December the 14th. And then we are going to have a conflab. So it's not just us. We've got an outsider coming in, an outsider adjudicator coming in. But if anyone's got any questions, we'll put the post up on Facebook. It's going to go tomorrow, isn't it? Saturday the 28th. If anyone's got any questions, send us a message and we can get back to you. Great. And we look forward to reading all the applications and hope we get lots in. That would be great. Okay, so
John, you can't apply, yeah?
No.
You can't apply. Family can't apply.
That's right. Yeah. And so let's move on to our interview. This week, I interviewed a guy called Andy Dobinson, and I really enjoyed chatting to Andy this week. I won't tell you too much more because the interview will explain what happens, but something happened in 2017 that basically changed his life, and it's been a fight back since then. So I hope you enjoy this interview. It lasts about 30 minutes. And it will give you a chance to find out his story and hopefully be as inspired as I was just talking to him about what happened and the way that he's been able to change things around and get back to running. So I hope you enjoy this interview. For this week's episode of Run to the Hills, it's great to have Andy Dobinson. And Andy got in touch with me a few weeks ago and said that he wanted to share his story. And I was very intrigued to find out more. So we'll find out. There's something happened in 2017, which we'll come on to. But before we do that, Andy, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what your life was like before what happened in 2017.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, John. Yeah, before it happened, I suppose Andy Dobinson was an endurance cyclist. So I had a bit of a passion for cycling, and so much so that I founded a cycle club with a pal of mine back in 2011 called Glasgow Green Cycle Club, which is probably one of the biggest cycle clubs in Scotland now. But I spent my time doing 24-hour endurance events, really, really big endurance rides. Like I did one called the Double, which was like 210 mile on the Saturday and back out to do 215 on the Sunday. Lots and lots of 24-hour events, usually around race tracks, which is hugely boring, like round Knock Hill and round Brands Hatch. Lots of mountain bike 24-hour events. And then obviously I got into time trialing. So I loved the 50-mile and the 100-mile time trials. So my life was just kind of, well, I was kind of obsessed with cycling, to be honest. And doing stuff that I still luckily do now, which is, you know, motorsport, motorbikes, cars. If it wasn't for that stuff, I'd be a rich man, John, I tell you.
Excellent. Well, so that gives us a bit of a sense. Obviously, this podcast is about running, Run to the Hills.
Yeah.
And my co-host, Eddie, often enjoys chatting about cycling. So she'll enjoy that that introduction. So that was good. But obviously, we want to chat to you because of something that happened in February 2017. So just paint the picture for us and just tell us just what happened.
Well, just about 6 months prior to that, I'd started getting into running, and I did my first ultra, which was the Wooler Trail Marathon. And I was very guilty of just chucking myself in with both feet, and, you know, literally bought some trainers on a Saturday, went down to Wooler, did the trail marathon, and thought, oh my God, I've underestimated that. So I was kind of getting into running. Then February the 9th, 2017, at 5:15 in the afternoon, I remember it well. I was sitting right here because I work from home, and I was on a conference call, and I had this little earpiece in, and without warning, I can smirk about it now, but God, without warning, it was as if someone lit a blowtorch up the back of my head and pressed every single pin in the world into the back of my head. And I suddenly thought, oh my God, what's happening? And beads of sweat just like appeared and dripped onto my desk. And I thought, what's going on? And I started feeling a bit, but I still had my senses about me. So, you know, started Googling. I put myself on mute because I was on a conference call. I thought it's going to be rude to dial off. So I just put myself on mute. And I started Googling, and it came up with, because I Googled dizziness, sickness, and leaning to the left, because I was kind of sitting like that. And it came up with this thing called peripheral vertigo. And I thought, right, that's it. I've got an ear infection. This earpiece has given me an ear infection. I'll be fine. So I thought, right, okay, Nurofen. So as I stood up, I kind of fell over, and I was like, oh my God, this is really bad vertigo. So I went downstairs to the Fix Everything cupboard and got the Nurofen. And by the time I turned round and got to the bottom of the stairs, I couldn't walk. So I thought, right, I obviously started getting quite scared and horrendously sick, started to feel quite confused. And I kind of crawled up the stairs. Luckily, the call had finished. So I took my earpiece out and just threw it into my office and thought, damn, the earpiece has given me an infection. So I kind of walked along, and I was leaning against the wall because I couldn't stand up, and I lay on the bed, and I rang my wife. And I went, Nick, I don't feel very good. And she went, what's wrong? I said, I think I've got a migraine. And she went, you never get migraines. You've been training too hard. I told you, you need to relax. I'm going to my fitness class. I'll see you at 6 o'clock. I'm like, right, fine. And I drifted off to sleep, just feeling quite scared, confused, dizzy. And I felt like I was drunk. And you know those injections you get from the dentist? It felt like I'd had an injection, and my face started to like feel really heavy, and my left eye started closing. Luckily, I drifted off to sleep. And then next thing I know, my wife just shouts, Andy, where are you? And I'm like, I'm upstairs. And she walked in, opened the door, and her words were, oh my God. So she flicked the light on, and I didn't react to the light. So she went, well, that's not a migraine because you'd react to the light. So luckily, she'd seen the FAST acronym on Facebook. You know, that when you suspect a stroke, face, you know, say chicken soup. And she got me to sit on the side of the bed, and I was grey and quite white, and I was horrendously scared. And she says, can you say chicken soup? And my speech was really quite slurred. So she went, right, okay, I think we need to ring an ambulance. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Don't ring 999. I don't want to be a bother. Ring 111, it'll be fine. So she rang 111, and luckily they knew what was going on, and there was a crew quite near. So I think within about 10 minutes, these two burly guys came in and started working on me. And they hooked me up to the monitoring system, and they went, it's not the best, it's not the worst, but I think we need to get you into hospital. So by that time, I was literally one either side of me, taking me out the house, and my feet were dragging along the ground. Rushed to hospital, blue lights. I vaguely remember them saying in the ambulance, we've got a suspected stroke victim. Into A&E, and this team descends on you, and that's when it started, John. So they didn't know what it was at the time. They thought it was chronic fatigue because of my training. Because did I do too much? Probably. I mean, I was quite obsessed to the point where, you know, if we were invited to go out on a Sunday, I would go, oh, I've got a big ride to do on Saturday, I can't go out. So, you know, tests and morphine and just, oh, I've got some pictures my wife took, just horrible. And I was taken to the critical illness unit overnight. And I've never been sick like that in my life. It was horrible. And then the test started. So in the morning, you know, a lumbar puncture where they put a big needle into your spine and draw off fluid. And then they said, right, okay, just lie there and drink coffee. And I'm like, where else am I going to go? I can't go anywhere. I can't walk. MRIs. And it wasn't until late on the Friday after a CT scan, I was wheeled back to critical illness, and this little junior doctor came in and said, Mr. Dobinson. So when, yeah. She went, right, okay, so you've had a stroke. I'm like, what? I said, get my wife here, please, now. So that was the start of just over a week of the stroke journey. And I was like, what has just happened? My life's done. I'm over. It's over. Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't walk. I, you know, carried to the toilet. It was just the most scary thing. That's horrible.
Yeah, that sounds, obviously, just hearing that story, and you know, I think all people listening to this, watching this, will be fit probably, and they're used to cycling, running. You know, they know what it's like to overtrain or whatever else. But that just sounds horrendous.
Well, I think the problem with it was as well, John, it was called a cryptogenic stroke, which basically means is we have no idea why it happened. So it was a clot. Okay. And the way they describe it, it was a significant clot the size of a plum that went up the back of my head and spread. So the medical term was a sudden onset left-sided paresthesia, or acute infarcts, I think it was called. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? It was just a massive clot. And they have absolutely no idea why it happened. But just one of those things, just unlucky, I suppose.
Yeah. So just tell us then, at the start of that recovery and that time, you had a week in hospital, is that right?
Yeah, so a week in hospital, and, you know, you go into intensive physiotherapy, and, you know, the nurses come in and put a knife and a fork and a brush in front of you, say, right, show me how you feed yourself. And you think, is this my life? You're given a stick, and you're not allowed to do anything without help. And by the end of the week, I was kind of shuffling up and down the passageway in the hospital. And in that week, I decided, right, okay, Andy, come on, you've got two choices. You either feel sorry for yourself and let it consume you, and that's just not me, or you just crack on and get on with it. So I thought, you know what, there actually is only one choice, because the other option of letting it consume you, I can't imagine what that would be. And I appreciate that as strokes go, mine was a really good one. I'm dead lucky. I'm here, I'm walking, I'm talking, I'm running, really lucky. But that's not to say it hasn't been really dark and really horrendously hard work. So when I got home, it was literally physiotherapy visits to the house. You know, you go from cycling 200 miles to being allowed to walk for a minute on a treadmill under supervision. And right, you can cycle for half a mile, then you need to get off. But after that, I would sleep for the rest of the day. I was shattered. So, you know, I made sure that when I could, I was down in the bottom bedroom every single day, throwing a tennis ball or trying to throw a tennis ball between my hands, standing on a Bosu ball, trying to stand on one leg, which was comedy gold. I mean, so many times I've taken a header into the wall thinking, right, okay, this is just it. but yeah, slowly and surely you kind of regain your balance, and you get those ankle receptors talking to your brain and your brain talking to your ankle. But I would say I lost count of the hours and hours and hours of just horrendous rehabilitation. And, you know, without my wife helping me, I'd still be a quivering wreck, I think. So, you know, the amount of times she's thrown a tennis ball at me to say, right, catch that. And you think, catch what? What was that you just thrown at me? She went, Andy, it's a tennis ball. Oh, right, okay. But yeah, a long physical, but nobody explains the mental part of it. Yeah. You know, I've done quite a lot of ultra marathons now and a lot of endurance stuff. And I think I've said that you visit some dark places in an event, but I'll take those dark places any day of the week compared to the darkness of recovering from a stroke. Yeah. Just hideous, absolutely hideous.
You were saying as well, Andy, that just a few months later, your dad died. Is that right? In May?
Yeah. So I got home, and a week after, I took a call from my mum, and my dad had acute myeloid leukemia. So it's quite funny how the body and the mind works, John. So I don't know how my body coped, but it's as if it allowed me to recover to a certain extent. So by May time, I could be with my dad, and I travelled up and down the road to see my dad, and he passed away on the 25th of May, and I was there, I was holding his hand. But, you know, trying to process a stroke, trying to recover, then trying to process your dad's passing. But I thought, I want to carry his coffin. I want to carry his coffin. So 2 weeks later, I was back down in Northumberland at my mum's, and I went for a run the day before, and something happened, and I thought, I'm having another stroke. And it was about a 2-mile run. I was plodding along the road, you know, because that's all I was capable of doing. And I kind of started limping, thinking, oh my God, I'm having another turn. By the time I got to my mum's gate, I was clinging onto the fence. So I was still adamant. I'm quite stubborn. I thought, I'm going to carry my dad's coffin. Somehow I managed the next day. And it's as if my body went, right, okay, we've given you phase 1. Now we're going to take you back to square one. And it was as if my body and mind gave in. And it was like starting from square one. And I was back in physiotherapy every week. I was back in hydrotherapy at the hospital. I reached out to a counsellor. My wife remembers the phone call. I'd been put in touch with a counsellor, and I just burst into tears, and I said, I need help. Mm. And I've never done that. And I've got no shame in saying I started on tablets, but I was adamant I would not take an antidepressant tablet. But as soon as my wife called them anti-anxiety, I'll have them. I'll take anti-anxiety tablets, but I won't take depression tablets. And I was on them for about 18 months. And it kind of took the edge off things, and it allowed me to focus on processing my dad, but also processing what had happened. And it's kind of only now that I'm really comfortable talking about it. Yeah, I mean, I tried to go to some support groups, and I had to withdraw from them. I just couldn't mentally cope with it. And it's now I can genuinely, hand on heart, say it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. The best thing that's ever happened to me. Wow. I'm a more rounded, settled, content human being, I would say, for the stroke.
Yeah, you were saying, Andy, that just that first week you had that choice of whether you just accept it and lie back or fight back. After the second one and your dad's death, was there a moment there that you thought, right, I want to beat this, as it were. I want to get back to living.
Yeah, there was, but it was kind of different because from February I was absolutely focused on I want to get better. And I want to do stuff and I want to recover. After my dad passing, I wanted to do that, but I didn't know how. So I knew what I wanted to do, but I was so clouded that I had no idea how to do it, and I needed told. So previous to my dad, I'd made all my decisions, and I got guidance from Nick, my wife, and all your support team. And I was like, no, I've got this. Where after it was like, tell me what I need to do. I don't know what to do. And that took quite a few months for me to think, no, I'm kind of starting to understand what I need to do. Maybe I could pin a number on again. maybe I could run again. Maybe I could ride my bike again. And it kind of started falling into place as I did my hydrotherapy and my physiotherapy. But it was always in the back of my mind that I will absolutely not let this define me. No chance. But you go through stages of passionate hate for the stroke. How dare you do this to me? And I was really, really angry at times. I mean, my wife will tell you my temper would just flick. Really reactive. And I've still got to manage that now. I'm sometimes quite bad in the car. You know, some poor guy pulls out on me 500 yards away. I'm like, oh my God, how'd you do that? I'm like, whoa, calm the jets, Andy. What you shouting at? But yeah, it was kind of two mindsets. The first one was very focused. Second one was really quite cloudy, but always with an end goal. Always with an end goal.
Yeah. Now, obviously, over the last 2-3 years, you've really got into your running in a bigger way. Have you stopped cycling, or you do both?
No, I still cycle, but not as much. I'm still club captain for the club, so I really quite enjoy the analytical organisation of the club. I love that. So we do a full championship events calendar, and I do all the organisation, and I maybe go out once every month, once every 2 months. Because of the different mindset I've got now, I can't look past my running. I'm passionate about what running gives me. And it's really hard to explain. I was actually messaging a friend the other day who's doing a 5K and a 10K, and he's really fast. He's a fantastic runner. And I was saying, no, don't get too caught up in the time. Remember why you do this. And it's like, I wish someone had said that to me back before the stroke, because I was chasing times, wattage, positions, results, where now I don't care if I'm last. What running does for me now is adventure, journey. It's a completely different mindset. And trail running especially it just gives you that. It really does give you that.
Okay, so maybe just share some of your highlights then over the last 2-3 years on the running side, some of the races that you've done and some of the adventures that you've had.
So I kind of dipped my toe in the water. I didn't do anything obviously in 2017 because I wasn't, I couldn't run the length of myself in 2017. But 2018, I started to kind of go back to it. So, it was only a 10K, but in March of 2018, kind of marked a year and a bit. And it was the Stroke Association Resolution 10K. And the friend I've just been talking about came up and ran it with me. I kind of ran, walked, trundled, and plodded. And I came in 56 minutes and I thought, sub-hour. And I was proudly wearing my Stroke Survivor t-shirt. And I thought, I've got this. But then it was, I would say my comeback was Wooler Ultra Trail Marathon in November. And it was really significant because it was in a place called Wooler where I used to live as a kid. It was in the youth hostel, literally across the road from my old house. And it was on my dad's birthday. And I ran with two friends, Neil, whose mum passed away from a stroke, and my mate Alan. So it was really significant for us all. And 29 mile across the Cheviots. And when I crossed the line, I burst into tears. And I've got a picture of the two guys hugging me. And I always go and do that event. It's so special to me. But that was kind of, I didn't set the world on fire. I might have been near the back, but 29 mile, a year and a bit after you can't walk, I thought, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've done, oh my goodness, I've done the lap around Lake Windermere, 47 mile. I've done Glenogle 33. I've done Lakeland Trails 55, which was comedy because at 55 kilometers, you're still in the middle of nowhere. And I said to one of the marshals, is the finish quite close? And he went, you've never done this event before, have you? And burst out laughing. So yeah, I've done about 8 or 9 ultra runs now since my stroke. So, but again, at my pace, with my approach, with my attitude, and on the back of that, I've started a running club called Glasgow Green Running Club. So we've got about 30 people in that, and it's a breath of fresh air running with people. It really is. It's great.
Yeah. Well, that's superb. And I was looking at some of your stats on DUV. So that was interesting to see the things that you've done. The thing I'm really interested in, Andy, is to obviously that life-changing event that happened and the way that you've been able to sort of get yourself back to where you are now. Have you got some big takeaways, some big lessons that you feel you've learned that has helped you in the running and could help others that are listening?
Yeah, I kind of live by the mantra, be kind to yourself. Don't compare yourself with anyone else. However competitive you are, whether you're top end, you always kind of compare yourself with others. There's no mileage in that whatsoever. So if I set out on a run and 50 people pass me, then they're clearly faster than me on that day. I might pass them next week or the week after, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. So be kind to yourself. Don't judge yourself against anyone else. And again, if you believe you can, you probably will. But if you think you can't, you definitely won't. And I know that might sound, that's all well and good. And I appreciate that. I say again, I've been really lucky with my stroke. I'm able to run ultra marathons. But I always manage the good guy and the bad guy on my shoulders. That they're always live there. They're with me all the time. Don't give up, and take credit for any little bit of success. Don't if it's one step today and 2 tomorrow, do you know what? You've done it. It doesn't have to be 1,000, and that's how I measure myself now. If I could chuck the ball 2 times between my hands and I did it 3 times tomorrow, that's progress. But if I only manage it once, fine. It's just one of those days, isn't it?
Yeah.
A friend said to me a long, long time ago, don't sweat the small stuff. And I'm hugely anxious a lot of the time, and it's been exacerbated by my stroke. And I work really hard on that. I've got a lot of processes in my mind that I've got to go through to get things done. But just try not to sweat stuff that doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Tomorrow's another day. And it all sounds quite corny, but it's actually true. It's actually true. So.
Yeah. And I think coming from someone who's been through what you've been through, then it's got weight behind it. I appreciate that. And I'm sure people listening will appreciate that. Have you got advice for anyone who is going through maybe a similar situation? I know yours is quite sort of dramatic in the sense of the way it happened and what went on. But you obviously weren't sure what was happening, were you?
Yeah.
From what you were saying. Any advice for any of us?
What do you mean, for someone who's been through something and trying to fix themselves, I suppose? Is that what
I think so. And I was thinking as well, just being aware that these things, obviously you weren't expecting it, were you?
Yeah.
And we don't wish this on anybody, obviously, but are there things that you think that you could have done better, or that you sort of help people to think if it did happen to them?
There's 2 trains of thought prior to the stroke. My wife's convinced that a feeder for what happened was the amount of training I was doing. I've always denied that, but now that I think about it, it might have had a part to play in it. But I genuinely think mine was bad luck, just sheer bad luck. For anybody who's going through something like this, I think there's 2 things to think about. Have an end goal, right? That's the aspiration, right? That's where you really want to get to. And it might seem absolutely huge, but if you just focus on that, it's going to blow your mind. So if I just focused on Wooler Trail Marathon, I would be thinking, oh my God, how am I going to do that? That's just not possible. I'll never do that. Well, you can and you will, but strip it right back. So I always strip things back. And a good one for me is going back to the tennis balls, right? Okay, I've stood there for hours and thrown tennis balls between my hands, and I've dropped them more times than I've caught them. But that's part of the process. And that was a really small chunk of a much bigger picture. So I totally appreciate that some situations are way more horrendous than mine and way more challenging and just horrible. But I truly believe that have a big picture of what you think you want and understand why you want it as well. It's got to mean something to you. But then strip it right back and say, right, okay, that's what I want to do, but what am I going to do right now that's going to affect that? And make them really small and achievable, because little goals and little wins are fantastic. They really do spur you on, really do.
And is that something you would do in a race? You know, if you're doing a 100-mile race or 50-mile race, would you try and break it down into little pieces as well?
Yeah, I go from feed station to feed station. So I don't look beyond the feed station. And then I get to that feed station, I fill my bottles up, I have something to eat. I think, right, okay, we're starting afresh. How long have I got to go? 9 mile, 12 mile, 15 mile. Right, okay, let's just focus on that. Because if you think of the big picture, like the lap, that was the biggest one I've done so far. And if I'd thought I've got to run 47 mile, oh my God, how am I going to do that? And, you know, the good guy and the bad guy came a knocking that day, and the bad guy got a real voice at 23 mile, a real voice. Took me ages to talk him down, but I did. But he was all part of it. I was thinking, I'm going to get rid of you by the next feed station. You're gone. So yeah, I approach it exactly the same. Even on my runs, my training runs, if it's an out and back, I've only got to get to the out, assess things. And do you know what? If I'm knackered, I'll ring Nikki and she'll come pick me up. She hasn't yet, and she would kill me if I asked her, but there you go. But yeah, just, again, process little bits at a time. Definitely.
I think there's so many lessons in life, aren't there, generally in running, that can be applied, and the other way around. You know, I think sometimes the things that we do, and particularly in ultra running where you're out for many, many hours, it's amazing how you can then transfer that into everyday life. And some of the lessons you learn in running help you in your everyday life. And it's
absolutely,
you know, works both ways, doesn't it? So it's
yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's been really interesting chatting to you. I was looking forward to this from when you got in touch. And I just got one final question, and that is, what have you got planned for next year? You're obviously someone that likes to plan ahead and got big goals. So what are your plans?
I could give you the list that I haven't told my wife, but I'll be totally honest with you and give you a list that I'm going to do. I've got a couple of trail half marathons at the start of the year, the Winter Wipeout and the Glen Tress. I'm off to Chamonix for a week, trail running in June. It was supposed to go this year, but obviously that never happened. I'm doing the Lakeland 55 again. I love that event. I'm doing the Ring of Steel in September. And then I have got myself an entry for Lakes in the Day in October. And I was going to think about doing the West Highland Way Challenge, but I'm going to say no. I know my limitations, and it's unfair to put myself and my wife under the stress of me running 94 miles, but my mate's going to do it. So I'm going to support him for the last half, probably run the last 50. Yeah. And I would love to think I could do like the Abrahams Tea round and the McWilliams round up in the Cheviot, but there's only 12 months in the year. And I've got to be quite conscious of not being selfish. I don't want to put myself in a situation or my wife in a situation where she worries too much. Yeah. Could it happen again? Possibly. It's more likely not to happen than happen. But that won't stop me doing anything. Yeah. That won't stop me doing anything. So yeah, a bit of a full calendar, but all within reason, I think. Definitely. Yeah.
No, it sounds a great calendar, and some of those races I've done, and they're all excellent. You'll really enjoy them, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Lakes in a Day. Really am. That'll be fantastic.
Yeah,
that'll be good.
Yeah, it's a great event. Have you recce'd it at all? Do you know any of the routes?
Well, I've only done, I know the area only because I've done Lakeland 55, I've done the lap, and I kind of know the lakes from when I was a kid, but I'll probably try and get down and recce some of the more trickier parts of it over the year, definitely. I think, because I say in the first half is very much different to the second half. Yeah. So yeah, I want to kind of experience a bit of the first and a bit of the second. So yeah, definitely.
And it's really well organized, and it's a great route. And if you get the weather, the year I did it, it was tremendous weather, and we had brilliant views all day. But then the next 2 or 3 years after that, it's been pretty wet and miserable. So hopefully you'll get a good day.
Fingers crossed.
You'll be able to see. Crossed. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for tonight, Andy. It's been great chatting to you. Really appreciate it, and look forward to following your progress next year.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, John. Appreciate your time.
I hope you enjoyed that interview. As I say, it was great chatting to Andy and finding out about what happened on his stroke, and going from someone who was just super fit to basically not being able to walk. So a great story, and the way that he's been able to really change things around. If you want to follow his journey in the future and find out more about him, he has an Instagram page, and it's Andy_stroke_of_luck. So I'll put that link on the show notes as well. But do follow him and find out more about his story. Okay, we're going to move on to thinking about a couple of episodes' time. And we thought, Eddie, that we would get Dave Troman back. We had a great interview with, I had a great interview with you and Dave. And I know lots of listeners really enjoyed that and found that really beneficial. So we thought we'd get Dave back on before Christmas. And instead of us setting the agenda, we thought that maybe we would ask people to send in questions.
Yeah, like when the teacher says you can mark your own homework. And you're always like, it's because you don't want to mark it. It's not like that at all. We thought we covered a broad spectrum last episode when we had Dave on. We probably covered more than we planned to. When I listened back to it, there was so much content in there that we could have done a little episode on nearly all of it. So we thought we might be a little bit more specific next episode, but we wanted to know what you guys would like us to Twitter on about for an hour or so. So I'm going to put on Facebook just pop in anything you'd like us to talk about, running related maybe, because John gets cross when I go off on a tangent. What would you like us to cover? Maybe it might be something like how do I come back from injury, or what should an end of season break look like? How do I have an end of season break when I haven't done any races, or how do I build up for my next race, or how do I put strength and conditioning into my plan? I'm giving all the things that I'd like to talk about. Yeah. But really, and then we'll pick a couple of topics, and then I think lots of people last time, that's it. I think that was one of our most listened to episodes, wasn't it? That people, I think it's good as well. It reassures people sometimes as well that what they're doing, they're like, oh yeah, because if you don't have a coach, you're sort of bimbling around a bit. I think that lots of people are like, oh yeah, well that's what I do, or this is what I do, and it set up lots of nice discussion as well. So I'll pop a post on Facebook about and people can comment below what they'd like us to talk about.
Yeah. And that episode will go out in 2 weeks' time. So, because next week we've got an interview with Lee and Shelley, who run Let's Run, the running store, and we thought it'd be great to get them on and just to ask them and for them to share some ideas for presents for Christmas for runners. So we thought we would interview them. So that will be next week's episode, and the week after will be the one with Dave. So you've got a week or so to get your questions in, and then we'll get a chance to be able to answer those. And I'm looking forward to that one again. I might even put my own question in. Could I have a question?
You're allowed to do that, John.
Okay,
that's allowed.
okay,
That's
okay.
the rules. Yes.
So I'll have a think about what question I'd like to stump you with. That would be good.
Oh dear.
Great. Okay. So anything on this week? Now you've got a little bit more.
Bit more freedom. So tomorrow I'll be out. Yeah, I'm going to go and get some new trails. The ice is a bit. I'm sort of looking where the sun's hitting the mountain at this time of day now to know where. The problem is you're fine going up, and you often don't realize how icy the tracks are, and then you look to come down. It's a bit tricky, but I will go off, have a bit more freedom, and go down different trails. I know what I've got on. I'm doing a couple of tests next week. Oh, I'm going to Twitter on about these for ages next Friday. I'm doing a couple of tests to set my zones for my winter training. I'm going to use heart rate a lot more this winter. So I've got a couple of heinous tests that I've got to do. One is flat. Some flat running. So I think I'm gonna have to do that. I'm going to do them both on the treadmill actually. And then one is an uphill, just run until you die test. Because I want to do a lot more skiing and cross training this winter. So I can make sure that all my training and my twittering on about Swift, I'm working in the right heart rate zone. So next week I've got 2 big sessions to do, which I'm a little bit nervous about, but which are good. A good means that I'll be training right, and a bit. I think it's quite good to sometimes, like you are, challenge yourself a little bit. What have you got on, John?
I'm going to go up on the Braes tomorrow. It's really muddy up there, but I can do a route which is not quite so muddy. So I did one last Saturday, and then I'll probably do a little bit longer one tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to. So I'm John Kynaston, and this was episode 16.
I'm Eddie Sutton, and let's run to the hill.